up, DanceFam? Welcome back to another episode of The Session. I'm your host, Russ Santos, aka Lock and Robin, and today we're going to be doing a recap / review of World of Dance Season 4, Episode 4, the fourth episode of the season, obviously, and the fourth Qualifiers episode, also being the last Qualifier episode. So next week will be the callbacks, but before we get any further, I want to introduce my guests, as always. Phil, Justin Cortez, and Eser Valencia. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
how's it going? I'm good.
Justin, what's up, man? How you doing?
Same old, same. My shirt's changed again. Same thing like last time. You know, new shirt. Definitely showered. That's pretty much it.
Sounds good. That sounds like a quarantine update to me. Eser, man, how's it going? Oops.
Oh.
There you are.
I'm good. Doing fine overall. I actually had to be on a Zoom call today with a collared shirt.
With a collared shirt? I haven't worn one of those in quite some time.
I know. Today was the first time I've been in a collared shirt for a meeting in a long time. But
awesome.
It was kind of nice. Still had my shorts on, though.
You pulled one of those. You pulled one of those. Oh, I wonder if they're wearing any pants. Oh God, that's awesome. But thank you guys for coming on again. It's another week of World of Dance, another episode, another qualifier.
Sure.
Last qualifier though.
Yep, exactly.
Last qualifier, but yeah, for sure. But
before I go any further, I want to bring up a couple of issues that are happening in the dance world and dance industry as of the last week up until this week. So first thing first, it's funny that last week we mentioned the term urban dance because that was an industry term in LA. And the reason why we brought it up last week is because one of the acts, Erica, and I'm forgetting his name, labeled their style as urban dance, and that is an LA industry term for, I guess, kind of like, instead of calling it hip hop. But now the industry leaders over in LA and I guess across the country and around the world are moving away from using the term urban just because it has been racially skewed, and it's no good, obviously. So now we're not calling it that. We don't know what we're calling it yet or what they're going to call it. That's a conversation that those leaders want to have and trying to figure out. I think that's going to be a tough one, but we'll see what they have to offer and if people like it, if dancers like it. But in addition to that, I think, Eser, you wanted to say something too?
Yeah. So for the listeners, viewers, I just wanted to bring to attention of recent events that kind of surfaced in terms of sexual assault, sexual abuse. This is not a new topic per se, but it's kind of resurfaced here within our community, our dance community, and it's definitely affecting the West and the East, and it's just something that needs to be talked about. But that could be for a later time. Just wanted to bring to everyone's attention because, as previous instructors, as current instructors, we do want to keep a safe space for our students, young and old. So we just want to keep that in mind and make sure everyone is good and safe, and just make sure people are talking about it.
Well said. Well said. So definitely a lot is happening nowadays, not just in the world, well, obviously the world, but even hitting closer to home to our listeners, our students, teachers in the dance community. So it's good to have these open discussions. That being said, let's move on to what we came here to do, and let's talk about World of Dance Season 4, Episode 4, the fourth and final episode of Qualifiers this season. Actually, no. Some general things I wanted to say. Some general things I wanted to say about this episode. I still find it. Well, first of all, montages are back with a vengeance.
Oh my God!
So many acts got.
He used it. He definitely used
montage. Yeah. So many acts got montaged this episode. I guess since the last episode of Qualifiers, they had to throw everything in there as many as they could. Still don't like it, but that's the way it is, I guess. And we'll get to that later on. But that being said, I still find it so odd that these acts and dancers get judged on choreography when I would say a good amount of them 50%, maybe even more, don't even do their own choreography. So it's like they're just getting taught these routines and whatnot, and they're just there to perform it or to use it, borrow it. But they get knocked down, or they either get raised up, get extra points, or they lose points based on choreography. I still find it so odd. I'm not even entirely sure if that should be. I mean, if it should be one of the judging criterias, but I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about that, Justin?
I think it's really interesting that a lot of the viewers that aren't even really that in the dance community probably don't even know that a lot of those routines are taught to those teams. So I think that you've just peeled the curtain back a little bit for them.
Sure.
But no, I 100% agree with you that to judge someone on choreography when the choreography is not even their own original, or not to say that there aren't teams that aren't putting their own original choreography out there on this, on this platform, it's tough because even that right there is an issue. You have teams that are giving their own choreography, and then you're giving choreography to other teams. That's already, to me, a conflict of interest. So I think they should just do away with that category, maybe bring up a whole different one, what that might be. I don't know. Maybe crowd response, something like that. I know we've been judged on crowd response before. Maybe not right now, but
right. Or maybe even make it a requirement that they have to do their own choreography or something like that. That might be a way to move. Eser, what do you think about this whole thing of choreography?
I mean, yeah, because I would think that for studio-taught dancers entering this competition, I would find it okay because, some of these dancers are pretty young and wouldn't know where to start making choreography because they're still learning. I mean, they're very good. These young dancers are very good at, being able to exhibit this choreography from the choreographer. But I guess maybe when it comes to I don't know, for me, an age limit, if they can already have that kind of ability to start making their own stuff, felt like that would be a little more way to go to start judging that.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe like an age requirement or like an age level where at that point it becomes required, or becomes a requirement where you have to do your own choreography. If you're in the junior division, maybe it's acceptable to borrow choreography at that point. It's not a bad idea. It's definitely something I think that needs to be talked about, by whomever. But I just find it so odd and sometimes off balance when they get judged on choreography. When two different teams gets judged on choreography, when one has been taught by, say, someone who's very professional, or who's very successful as a dancer, and then versus an up and coming group that does their own choreography. So it's kind of that's a whole different topic that we could talk about for a long time. But anyway, that being said, let's move on to the acts. First up, Geometrie Variable, and I'm not going to try and pronounce it in the French accent because that would be very rude, and I don't want to cause any trouble around here. So Geometrie Variable, they are from France, and they are a tutting trio. Eser, what did you think about them?
I was glad to see, and I was very surprised to see a tutting group because you don't see those very often, at least anymore. To my knowledge, tutting does come in the popping category. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
But yeah, they had very clean lines. They definitely knew their craft. And I was very amazed also at the kind of professional backgrounds, their job backgrounds that they were mentioning. It was just these are definitely real world kind of guys, because that's kind of where we are too. We have our professional career lives, and then we also have our nighttime lives, whatever we want to define that as. But I was very amazed with their visuals. I was definitely amazed with their visuals when they were tutting and implementing very great concepts of using those angles. Because if the listeners and the watchers are not familiar with tutting, it's a very precise dance and movement. It requires always 90-degree angles, 90-degree angles. Sorry, and if anything goes askew from that, it could mess up the whole routine. It could mess up part of the set and may not read well. So it's a lot of lines. So they definitely had those down, and I was just impressed with their angles, which is very important. But I don't know. Maybe I was really reading into what they were doing and was trying to nitpick. But maybe that's just me, that I saw they had to really watch some parts of executioning the movement and some extensions. It kind of looked a little shaky at some parts. Like, I think there was one part they were walking toward the judges, and then they were trying to execute those movements. So I would say just be careful with that. And I was very glad to see how well they were playing with the music, with their movement too. So the rhythms and the music was just very put together well, and it matched. So good job.
Nice. Justin, what do you think, buddy?
So, I'd really like to. I'd be really interested to see how far they can push their tutting. Overall, I did enjoy the performance. They did have sharp angles, but as Eser said, I feel like they can push that sharpness a little bit more. There was some shakiness to some of the performance, and I would also say that I wasn't a fan of how they kind of transitioned through their movements or through their stuff. A lot of it was just kind of walking to their next spot.
Right.
Whereas, you could use animation, or if anyone knows what animation is, they could use that kind of movement to get into their the next positions and things like that. It just it kind of put me off to have just them just walking to their next place. It was not really a great use of the stage, and when it comes to this kind of competition, you have to be able to use the stage well. So there's that. For the most part, it's hard for me to judge tutting because it's a style that I don't really have much experience in, practically none, in fact. So I don't know whether or not what they were doing it still looked amazing. But again, it's just hard for me to judge because I don't, I would need to understand it more.
Sure. So for me, what you guys haven't said, at least, it's just a few things. You guys mentioned their visuals were awesome, but yeah, you're right, Justin. It's hard to judge any style that we're not familiar with, really. But I feel like we've seen enough tutting and have done a little bit ourselves to kind of know what kind of looks good and what doesn't. We're not experts, obviously, so we won't say that what we say is correct by any means. Mm-hmm. But according to our opinions and our experience, at least, definitely, I thought they weren't as clean as they could be. There were moments, don't get me wrong, where they were right on point. The lines were perfect. They had 90-degree angles all over the place, and they kept up with each other a lot. But then there were other times where, especially the faster parts, where one person is off just by a little bit, and with only being three of them, if one person's off, that's a whole third, and it's you can definitely tell at that point, someone's off, and it's that one person.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's due to nerves or excitement, but when it comes to tutting, especially, you need to definitely be on point with that. I'm excited too that there's a group that's dedicated to one of these street styles under the umbrella of popping in at this point. I don't think we've seen tutting, a tutting group on World of Dance yet. So definitely awesome to see. They got 3 yeses, so they'll be moving on to the duels, which is awesome. Definitely happy for them, and excited. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention is that they incorporated a little bit of crump in their act. Actually, I don't know if you guys caught that.
Oh, with the chest pops and.
Yeah, especially
maybe
with
a few
like the
arm
shoulder
swings.
pumps. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I definitely missed that, but now recalling it,
Yeah, just a
yeah,
little bit. I mean, it's like when someone does a little bit of locking, it's like maybe like it was just like one
it
or
was
two
an
moves.
afterthought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Like a transitional move.
Let's move on to, speaking of locking, I guess they did a little bit, but let's move on to the next group, Gigabots. They're a popping group from Vancouver, Canada. I almost said California. Vancouver, Canada. They were both. So this group was on last season as two different groups. One was a duo, Funkonometry, and then the other group were a bunch of kids who did popping, named the Minibots. So they got together, and I guess maybe they got together this time and became Gigabots. Maybe they've always been together and they just split up for last season. Whatever it is, they're together now and they're called Gigabots. Justin, what'd you think, buddy?
Man, they had so much personality in their dancing. I mean, obviously, like the one thing that I have to comment on was the mouth singing. Like there was only a little bit, not that much, but it was there. Man, they had some. I thought they had really, really strong hits, but having strong hits and being smart where to put those hits is kind of where maybe what set them or put a bad taste in the judge's mouth. I mean, they were just hitting like everything, like.
Sure.
But I appreciated what they had to give. Like, I love watching a team that has that kind of personality that can put a smile on my face. They were just so engaging, and I love locking, and not as much as you two, but I love watching it and I love doing it, and it kind of just seems like there's no love for locking on this show. So to hear that a team like them that just had, like, I feel like they actually could have done really well in this competition, to hear that they aren't making it through, it's kind of disappointing.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was disappointing, but after watching their performance, I thought, yeah, it made sense, to be honest, in all honesty. So they're known, or they labeled their style as popping, but they did a really good amount of locking in their set. And that's where like the whole term pop and lock kind of came about, where one person didn't just do popping; they did both popping and locking, and people only knew the word, only recognized the word of. Actually, no, they just called it pop and lock. But anyway, getting off topic here. First of all, about their performance, I love the song they chose, "Funkin' on the One." This one was by Ozone, but I know it by the Reddings. Definitely a good song. You guys should get that on your Spotify playlist if you like funk at all. One thing, or I guess I have to nitpick on the locking. It wasn't as man. I think it was just the wrist rolls that were kind of stiff for me. Other than that, I thought they had the personality and the character and like the energy about it. But the one thing that tends to happen with beginning, when you just start to kind of learn some locking, your wrist rolls tend to get a little bit too stiff, and you don't really roll it at all. You kind of just go right through it. So that's one thing I wish that they should probably work on if they ever try to do it again, and I'm sure they will. One thing I liked about them is that the rhythms that they chose to hit always changed. Like, they didn't stick to just one thing throughout their set. They chose different parts of the music, different rhythms throughout it to hit. So I really appreciate it when any performer does that, just to keep things fresh and not as monotonous, so that the audience can't anticipate what you're going to do next. Keeps you on your toes. And that being said, like, they were just entertaining. I had a lot of fun watching them. It was awesome. So it's disappointing that they didn't get called back. Eser, anything that you would like to add that we haven't said?
Well, of course, I have to address the outfits. You definitely couldn't have done this. Done this set without the outfits. Like, it just was just right, and they definitely pulled that part of the the whole set off, and I was just like waiting. It's like, is this going to be a locking? Is this going to be like a funky kind of group? It's like, okay, here we go. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see what they got. So yeah, no doubt, like they were a fun group, entertaining, but at the same time, like I had to take myself out of the audience and really take it from a standpoint of like, was this enough? Also, like they were entertaining, and it was very exhibition showcase kind of a performance, but it didn't deem with me as well to really go further. I loved how they're showcasing it. Don't get me wrong, but there's just something missing. I felt like there's definitely something missing with this set comparing to my thinking about previous locking, popping, funky groups that have come through this competition. So that's just what I wanted to point out. Maybe the hits could have been stronger too for when they were popping as well. Probably I don't know, maybe we could also blame it on the editing, seeing as how like the camera angles just kept switching, so you couldn't really get a good focus too much on everybody else. It was like a lot like just swirling around. I don't know. But it was enough to see that they were doing the thing, like I loved it. So let's see.
Right on.
And I definitely just wanted to say, like, yeah, for sure, no love for the funk in this show.
No, for some reason it doesn't. Especially when it comes to locking, it's like the curse of death on the show. But yeah, you bring up a good point about editing, and I'm not sure if this is my point for editing is what has to do with the way they ended their set. Man, I think I think this isn't because of World of Dance. This is the group who edited it. At least what I think. The ending kind of they picked a weird spot in the music to kind of stop, and at that point it just faded off. They're like in the middle of like a verse, and it just faded off. They could have edited it a little bit better to, I don't know, drive an ending home, and then there was like a whole nother 8 count of no music to kind of end their set. So I thought that was a little weird for me. But yeah, I think overall it just wasn't as clean as it should be. I definitely actually agree with JLo that like I think they would have done better if the Funkonometry duo just did it on their own or did a set on their own. They were at least from last year I liked them. They were really good. So JLo and Derek gave them a no, and Neil gave them a callback. I probably would have given them a callback actually. Yeah, but I can see where the no's are coming from. At least. All right, let's move on to the next act. Maddy Penney, which is a very cool name.
The first thing I thought about was Manny Petty. Manny Petty.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking Money Penny.
Exactly. I mean, I thought about it. Anyway. So she is a ballet dancer from Mesa, Arizona. And right off the bat, right when she started, I was like, it's not exactly like 100% ballet, right, Justin? Like it was more contemporary inspired. Yeah. So I thought I was like contemporary tones, right, or something. I mean, there was.
Yeah.
I would say even it was almost more contemporary than it was ballet. But anyway,
it is so hard to showcase ballet in this kind of competition because what JLo said actually isn't too far off. Like not to say that ballet dancers don't show emotion, because 100% they do. It's more so that it can be restrictive in what you can do. So I've watched ballets and been like incredibly enthralled by what they're doing. But when you add that fusion, that contemporary into it, then it kind of takes away from what point you're driving. Like she wants to bring ballet and show that it can be competitive in this competition, yet she's forcing a fusion.
Right.
So it weakens her argument.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, there was like this duo maybe 2 seasons ago that did ballet or point. and they were awesome. They
Yeah,
made
they
it
were
all the
the-
way almost.
Yeah, they were the ones that knocked out Eva Igo
Right,
that
exactly.
season. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Man, Eva Igo.
and they were surprised. Right?
That little girl was a monster.
Hmm.
Exactly. The only other thing I couldn't really judge for me at least, I couldn't really judge too much on it. But I think overall, it was kind of just meh to me. Like it was kind of it was pretty monotonous in my opinion. I wanted to get into it and I wanted to appreciate a lot of it, but none of it. And I think Derek said this. Like none of it made me feel anything, or like made me like get out of my seat, or like feel kind of a rush, or feel any kind of what do you call it? Susceptibility. What's the word I'm looking for?
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Thank you. Susceptibility. That's a good one too. I like it. But she's definitely a good dancer. Super strong and flexible, as you know, as most ballet dancers are. And surprisingly, I agreed with almost everything that the judges said when it came to judging her. But yeah, that's just me. What do you guys think? Eser, what do you think?
I mean, you guys hit it too, but I just, I'm not, I'm not very proficient with ballet either. But also, I just wanted to, emphasize again, like it was definitely more than just ballet that was being exhibited in her audition. So it was kind of tricky to really like take a look at it from like, is she really staying in her lane when she said like, oh, I'm doing ballet, but I'm not an expert, so I'm just saying what I saw. But I don't know, for me she started to paint a good picture when she was going through it, but at the same time I felt like I was forcing myself also like to really be invested with the emotion of it, but it just wasn't coming right out. So I wanted more too when I was watching it. So hopefully, maybe she'll take these notes from the judges also.
Right on. Justin, was there anything more you wanted to say?
Yeah. I kind of feel like I took a good amount of time to just kind of like disparage what she did. The one thing that I definitely want to say is that she has beautiful lines and great technique. And I can see that she's proficient in ballet, and I can see that she's proficient in contemporary. And I wonder whether or not if she had really stuck to just the one, or like picking one, if she would have stood out more, whether or not because she kind of bottled herself into just saying that she wanted to push ballet, whether or not that actually just hurt her. And I think I talked about that before. So I wonder if she had said that she's a contemporary dancer, would we feel the same way, or would we like her more, something like that? Would she have been more willing to show off more expression? Because, I honestly felt like she was pretty expressive, but doing ballet does kind of sometimes hinder you to stay within like a certain like structure. So, she's got a chance to kind of push that, and to be honest, like if I were to watch this at like a regional dance competition or like nationals or something like that, I would have thought, yeah, this is a really good piece and she's a really great dancer. But unfortunately, it's not regionals of dance or nationals of dance; it's world of dance. So,
Fair enough.
One of those.
Right on. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. So this is funny. Derek gave her a no. JLo said yes. And then Neo gave her a callback initially. And then I guess since it was like a callback and a yes, it's not definitive. So at that point, they were allowed to talk it out and kind of make a decision together. And then I feel like JLo gave him like the producer eyes, like, you better get on my side. Otherwise, you're not coming back next year, Neo.
Like, this is the end of your contract.
And Neo was just straight up, I'm gonna ride with you on this one. I was like, you better ride with her. It's her show. So surprisingly
Oh,
or
man.
unsurprisingly, depending on how you appreciated her performance, she's going straight to the duels. So good for her. I
Yeah.
hope she takes all the notes that she got from the judges and uses it to improve her act or her next set. Because I definitely want to see her succeed. But yeah, all right, let's move on to the next group. CBAction. They are in a street dance group from Argentina. And so when I saw the term street dance, I was like, are they really going to be street dance though? Because I started thinking about other terms for the word or other things to call urban dance besides or without using the word urban. So I was like, maybe street dance. I was like, no, because there are street dances, like breaking, locking, popping, or if you in house, all the good stuff, crump, light feet. Especially if you know all these styles. So I was like, they better be doing some of this, or at least enough to call them like to label their style street dance. And I was surprised. I definitely didn't expect what they did to come from them just by looking at them from the get go, and that's probably me just profiling. So bad on me. But Justin, why don't you kick this one off? What do you think?
Whew. Oh man, when I talk about loving personality, like being able to see a team's personality in a performance, man, did I love what they did. Like again, this is another team, and definitely I obviously would put them over Gigabots. I mentioned Gigabots had me smiling throughout the entire performance. But CBAction, man, like they the way that they kind of interact or dance together is, you can see that they, one, have great chemistry together, two, love dancing together, have really honed kind of a way of emoting together. I thought they had, and not to mention I thought they had great use of blocking and well-placed tricks and setups. Like, I didn't see when they were going to do something like I normally do, round off backhand spring, start off on stage right, end up on stage left, and everyone in the back kind of, I won't get into that, but I guess I already did. But, I just really liked them. And even like their song choice was just like, what? Like, what?
Gigabots.
Right, like, man, I can't even remember the last time I heard that song, but now I just want to add it to my, my playlist, like,
oh boy,
I hear it all the time. And and I thought they made good choices in the music. Like it's hard for me to fault their performance, especially thinking about what they had gone through, like right before,
right. With one of their dancers breaking their knee.
Yeah, breaking their knee. Like, that's not an easy thing to come back from. I guess it was just a fracture in the knee, but, there might not be as much of a rehab for that. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But, man, to get injured right before a performance, I know how much that sucks, and it's heartbreaking. So I really feel for the guy. Definitely.
Gotcha. Eser, what did you think, buddy?
Yeah, I felt very relatable with this group, and also with the fifth member that was injured. I definitely related to that too. So I'm glad he sat with that one out, even though as hard as that decision may have been. I feel that, and I'm all for like not giving up, and also like for the group. You do it for the team. So it was just about making the smart choices, and that's just how it had to be. So I definitely was like feeling for the four of them that had to like really change things up. But at the same time, like when they did the set, I was very happy that it was almost not noticeable to really see that they were just supposed to be four, but then also like there are times like, oh, they're supposed to be five. But no, they definitely pulled it off for me. Like, I enjoyed watching them as well. There was one moment that I did enjoy was when they were on the floor. It was a little bit of floor work, and then they just rippled and launched one of their dancers. It was definitely a good way of using their dynamics and levels. Good moments too, and I was very engaged with the performance too. They definitely had a lot of spirit, which is very much needed, and the chemistry helps too. Uh, yeah, and I wrote here, true to the title of a performer, show must go on, and had to really switch the gears from when they were speaking with the judges, being like very somber and like hopeful, grateful, and then they just turned it on to be like happy and glad and just flowing with that jock jams,
Jock jams.
Hey man, it is what it is. That's the first time where I heard Gigabots. Like they were on jock jams. For my listeners and the watchers, like if you know jock jams, you know what I'm talking about. So
man, why you gotta do that?
Yeah. But yeah, just to end it on this note, like it's all about adapting. Like that's just how it had to be. Like good for them that they were just adapting to this situation.
Right on. You guys pretty much nailed it. Like, I want to say like we relate to them a lot just because like all the humor that they added. And like I brought this up before with like their label of street dance. They incorporated a lot of the styles, a lot of street styles,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of popping elements actually. So they did a bunch of tutting. They did a lot of hitting, waving, and strutting. Actually, I was surprised to see strutting in there. And then they also did a bit of locking. So I was like, man, they hit a lot of it. So props to them for trying to stay true to the street dance label, I guess you could say. So I was happy to see them do all of this. Kind of some negatives. Well, another good thing I liked about it is that they hit different rhythms throughout their set. I brought this up with a previous act. It's always good to change it up during your set so that you keep people on their toes. But one thing I thought that was a negative aspect or something they could probably work on, but is difficult, is that when they are together, all standing together near each other, they could probably come up with different formations. They tend to use the same formation, the same two formations if they're next to each other, like in a line, whether it's horizontal or vertical, upstage, downstage, or left to right. Or like in a diamond formation. So I mean, it's tough with four people, but I think they need to find ways to be creative with the formations that they choose at that point. But that was pretty much the only thing I saw as a negative, I guess. I want to say I'd like to see a few more tricks, or maybe like one big trick in there somehow. But maybe we'll see something later on. Otherwise, I thought they did a really good job. So Neo and Derek gave them a callback. We don't know what JLo said. I probably would have given them a yes, like straight to duels, just based on everything as a whole. Especially if you compare what they did to Maddy Penney, who got a yes to the duels. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's just me. You guys agree?
Yeah, 100%.
For sure. Yeah, same here. I wish they were going to get the yes also.
Gotcha. All right. So I'm glad they're making it to the callbacks. If you heard or if you stayed to the end and watched that teaser for the callbacks, there's 10 acts in the callbacks and only 4 of them are going to go through. I hope they're one of them, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to the next. Oh man, a whole bunch of acts actually. So this is where the montage vengeance comes into play. So this being the last episode of Qualifiers, they had to. I'm guessing they had to fit every callback or dual performer into this last episode, and man, did they do it! There are, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half acts that they montaged. I don't want to go into their performance just because it's not fair, since they didn't get their due time. We wouldn't be able to judge them fairly, or develop an opinion based on anything really. But the acts that got montaged, unfortunately, the difference, who I think got a callback, Itty Bitty Crew, who got a no, Amari Smith, who got a no, Pumpfidence, which is a really cool name, I thought.
I love
Yeah.
that name.
Yeah, that was a good name.
Yeah, because they're wearing heels, or pumps, I guess. They got a callback, so I guess we'll see them again. And I wrote just Willis. I'm not sure if there was more to that, but
No, it was just Willis.
okay, cool. I was like, did I just stop writing? But he, or I don't know who it is, but they got montaged also, and they got a no, unfortunately. And then the half montage, I like to say, I'll call it, is Project 21. I actually did judge it because I think we got a little bit more of their set than anyone else. Did you guys watch it?
Same.
Or judge it?
Yeah,
we did.
I did watch it. Yeah, I did the same.
Cool. So I'll kick it off. First of all, their style wasn't said. I don't know what they called their style themselves. I don't know where they're from because their location wasn't said. Again, this is where the whole montage thing comes into play. Right off the bat, or like watching their whole set, their style and outfit confused the hell out of me, man. Not because either one was bad, only because I felt like there was just so much dissonance between their style and the outfit they chose to wear. If they even had a choice to wear those outfits, really, because I think they seem more of like a studio company, I think. And if you know anything about studio companies, they often pick the same outfit out of like a catalog that they can choose to buy or whatever for their studio, and like they chose that one. But for the style dance that they did and what they wore, just they seem to be clashing in my opinion. Not to say that either of them were bad individually, because like I do like the outfits when compared to the song that they chose. You know, being a Gwen Stefani song and like the whole idea of a Harajuku girl, like those colors and like the makeup they wore, definitely reminiscent of Harajuku. Eser and I have been fortunate enough to go to that area in Japan, and it fits. They had a lot of good moments, and their range of the way they can dance and like how much rawness surprisingly they can bring to it was very large. So I was thoroughly surprised by them. That being said, I was very confused. Eser, what'd you think, man?
Yeah, so a lot of energy right off the bat. You know, I'm on that same boat too. Like before they even started, I was like, I don't want to assume just because they didn't have shoes on and they have those tutu outfits. Maybe it could have been a contemporary fusion that was going to happen before they started, but then of course I still didn't know how to define it. I even wrote here on my notes, I was like, question mark, contemporary fusion, but obviously I couldn't define it. That definitely wasn't said, but they did state where they're from. Hang on, let me just.
Oh, did they?
Back. Yeah, in the beginning of the set, like it was a quick snip.
Okay.
Yorba Linda, California.
Yeah.
So,
oh, nice. Okay. I guess I would have.
Yeah,
I would have remembered that name for sure.
Yorba Linda. I'm not sure where that is.
No, I'm Belinda.
It's
Oh, okay.
it's in Orange County. I actually looked it up today for other reasons that were food related.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's in Orange County.
Okay. Good.
Gotcha. But yeah, like they really did embody the femininity of the song and the set, you know, like listening to Gwen Stefani and just remembering like what kind of stuff she pulls in her music videos too. It's like, it's definitely like different. It's a unique like flavor of artistry that she has too. So I was pleasantly confused, like Russ was, like just to have these different elements just incorporated and, you know, embodying as well as the Harajuku kind of like fashion style, I want to say. But yeah, like I think one of the best choices they had in their set, I wrote down here, falling to the floor while transitioning back with a rondejam. And I was just like, wow, that was just like a nice little flow there that happened, you know, like things are just like happening. It didn't look like they were gonna like I wasn't expecting it either, and it's like, oh, they didn't even hit the floor. It was just like so fluid and it was just graceful. I was just like, excellent. excellent use of visuals, you know. But yeah, great intent and purpose in the movement and their choreography. So I was happy to see these things like just incorporated with these young female dancers. Very strong.
Right on. Justin, what'd you think, man?
I think pleasantly confused is a perfect way to describe what Eser said. And it's because like at the beginning of their set, I can definitely agree that that's how I felt. But then I kind of started thinking more along the lines of an avant-garde, like in the avant-garde kind of category. And it made more sense to me because when you have like the point of, I guess the point of avant-garde is to have those clashes, to be kind of abstract in what you're doing. So I'm kind of glad that they didn't say what exactly their style was because I feel like that would have put them into a category unnecessarily. And it's really interesting. I actually wrote here that I thought that they were very together, and I think I knew that they would dance really well together because they were answering in unison in the beginning of their interview.
Yeah.
So like when I hear things like that, when I see that y'all are answering in unison, that means that your chemistry is on point, and that's definitely something in their category that they have a plethora of, like not plethora of, but they have in they have a lot of chemistry together. I was so taken aback by that squat, like I don't even know how to do it. They hit this squat move close to the beginning, and I was just like, yo, why are my knees hurting from watching that? Like, I think anytime we see
there it is. Oh my goodness, yeah.
Like her knees are practically on the ground already. Like I don't even know that move. Like I was so taken aback from it, and like it may not have been like the cleanest thing in the world, but I don't judge solely on cleanliness. Like I judge on you just took a risk, and that I think it was amazing. Like the way, like for one point, like it wasn't expected because the song, and two, like Eser said, like I just assumed that they were going to be doing something more along the lines of contemporary or like something more lyrical, and they gave like a little bit of that. Like I don't know what to call them, and I love that I don't know what to call them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
So they got callbacks. Neo and Derek give them a callback, and JLo we don't know. I'm excited to see them again. Actually, I might have said yes, like straight through, like just because I don't know. Like I said, I was pleasantly confused and surprised. But I'm excited to see what they do next time. I hope it doesn't. I hope they don't solidify on a style. Like I hope they keep it fresh each time, and that every time I'm just like,
yeah,
that kind of a thing.
One other thing that I did want to mention is that I feel like they use this group to drive home the callback point, to kind of promote the callbacks, because to put all 5 of those previous acts before them and have it be montaged over an interview with J-Lo talking about how she got 5 callbacks for Selena before she could even screen test, that was their whole point of that. Like I think that they were just kind of not the scapegoat, but they're the ones that they are using as the example to drive home the callbacks, as like its own, kind of its own thing.
Sure, so. Interesting. That's a good point. I guess we'll wait and see till next week to see how this actually all plays out. Let's move on. Go ahead, Eser.
No, I just wanted to end like when they bring up the name and the group and like where they're located from. I just hope it's all question marks of what kind of style they have. That's just all I'm asking.
True. It's like Project 21. We don't know.
We don't know, and we love it.
All right, let's move on to the last performance of the night. Kurtis Sprung.
Such
a cool last name,
and
man.
Spelling.
Yeah, I know. Great last name.
The spelling of his first name with a K, and then Sprung. It sounds. I wonder if it's like his stage name, but I hope it isn't. That being said, he's a contemporary dancer from Coroga Lake, New York. I never even heard of this place, but New York is a huge place or a huge state, other than New York City and Long Island and Buffalo. So I was actually excited to see someone from, nowhere in New York. That being said, I only have a few things to say about him. The first thing I said after I saw him was, and I put in big cap letters, he is cut. Like, this guy is fit, like, beyond all measure, man. I was like, this guy's gonna be awesome. I think just the way his body is formed. Because, like, so far, everyone who has come on the show without a shirt, I think, has at least gotten a callback, and we're just always impressed at like how strong that person is. That said, I like the emotion he portrayed throughout his performance. There was one point where Derek said that he noticed that he felt he was awkward in a good way, and like he kind of contorted against the natural momentum of the moves that he performed. But I liked it because it kind of brought another feeling that came out of the moves itself, like a whole, like a what do you call it? Like a battle within himself, like two things kind of fighting against each other. So I thought it was cool. I really liked this performance. I didn't have a lot to say because I think this is one of the performances that I just watched without having like to do anything or like without typing. I couldn't see anything really negative per se. He's just super athletic, and I'm excited to see him again. Eser, what'd you think?
I really was into his backstory about why he got into this, like really into this growing up. I mean, he was already training when he was a child, but literally dance saved his life because he was facing a lot of like bullying and abuse from the kids in his town because small town, not everybody's as open to different ideas and could be a little more closed-minded, but I commend for his spirit as being a fighter and survivor, and really just using this as his outlet, and really fueled him, and really gave the energy that he needed to put it all out there, and literally no shirt was just really telling me like, man, this guy's ready, and he was just like ready to be vulnerable and just like leave it all on the floor, just like any dancer should, because you never know when the next time will be. But yeah, very confident and just like such a strong, well-trained individual. And it was just nice to see that he was even able, well, to me, it seemed like he was just really telling his story again out on that dance floor. And I was just very engaged with him. So it was kind of like hard for me to write at the same time because I just wanted to see how things played out with him. Yeah, he had excellent placements, and the accents of his movements was just very much there. I love the emphasis on, some of the things that he was highlighting in the music too, with his extensions. But I don't like, yeah, when I was listening to Derek with his critiques at the end, I too was like fine with the contradictory movement that Kurtis was showing, because I think it definitely brought a different dimension and layer to someone's dance rather than like cheating him of himself of dancing and like not really filling out the full value of the movement that which some may think that needed to be called for. But who knows? Some people may see it as like, was he really dotting his sentences? Was he really cheating himself? So we all have our own, viewpoints. But for me, at least, I think it was fine.
Cool. Justin, what'd you think?
Well, to start off, I also agree with Derek and you guys on his unique movement and his choices. I think he is the most unique contemporary dancer in this competition right now. Just the choices he made were just, I was like, I mean, they were unexpected. They were beautiful. It really was a great showcase of his strength. Those moments that he took to just breathe, and when you go back to him prepping, he's doing a breathing exercise in the beginning where he's blowing up a balloon. And that I don't like a few people use that to help with their understanding how their breath is or how to use their breath or conserve their breath while they're actually performing. So it's like I want to call attention to that. And you can even hear him breathing or like exhaling or sighing, and he would even smile during those moments, which I just thought were like beautifully placed. Like it made me smile to see him smile through that movement, because you can tell that, and Eser brought this up, that he loves to dance, and it is something that saved his life. And it is tough to confidently be a dancer when you are to be constantly judged for that choice, especially in a small town. And to kind of comment, and I don't know whether or not I'm bringing this up because I heard it on an episode of Star Trek, but
here we go.
His choices in movement reminded me of counterpoint in music. How like the counterpoints in music it goes harmonically with the music, but it's kind of like it's what people would consider syncopate. I don't know if I'm saying this right. You guys will probably know better than me because you grew up in music, but it's like what people kind of define as syncopation, that it's not dependent on the rhythm of the song. It's like almost like an accent. So that's what I kind of compared his movement to, that he is showing almost like a counterpoint in movement rather than using it in the music. So it's like, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong with that musical term.
Well, syncopation in itself is the act of starting on a strong beat or a weak beat and moving on to a stronger beat. In music, the strong beats are 1 and 3, and then the weak beats are 2 and 4. So it's like not starting on something that is considered weak and moving into something strong is the technical term definition of syncopation. But yeah, you're pretty much saying it.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Like, I liked him a lot, and I think that him being as unique a dancer as he is, I want to see him like really go like make it in this competition.
Yeah, me too. I kind of compare him to like I think of season 2, Michael Dubesky.
Oh yeah, that's his name. I was trying to think of his name.
Well, his name is
another guy.
Is Demesky, like Michael Demesky, but I call him Dubesky because he was like
Dubesky.
the best key. You know what I mean?
He was not from this planet.
No, that dude was of like pure muscle and art. But if a portrait had muscles, that's what he was. So yeah. Sorry to cut you off, Justin, but yeah, I'm excited to see him as well. So Neo and Derek both gave him a yes, and JLo kind of surprisingly gave him a callback only.
Right.
But luckily, he's going straight through to the duels, so we will be seeing him for sure. So that was the end of the episode. Oh, the end of the performances, or the end of the qualifying performances. That being said, there was probably like 10 minutes or 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes worth of time where they like kind of like did a preview of the callback episode. I want to say closer to 10 minutes, to be honest. But like, I feel like they could have used that time and put in another one of these acts that they montage. Just saying, because they don't need to do this whole teaser of the callbacks. If people are watching the show, they're going to watch the next episode. That's pretty much it. Like, that's one thing that kind of like grinded my gears at the end of this. Like, after seeing the last performance and then realizing there's all this time left, and they kind of just do a whole preview of the callbacks. Like, it's totally unnecessary. There's no cliffhanger here. We know what's going to happen. The callbacks are going to happen. It's like, that's it. Anyway, anything you guys want to say before we wrap this up about this episode?
You hit that
Justin?
main point, man. Yeah, sorry. You hit that main point right there. I mean, they literally had 2 performances that were that are callbacks, like the difference in Pumpfidence Pumpfidence that, like you said, they could have, like, I mean, if they just showed them and said that they have a callback, that would still drive the callback as an important episode. And then you could montage maybe the nose. As much as I hate doing like montages anyway, you could do it that way, and then you could showcase everyone. Now we're going into this next episode thinking that the difference and Pumpfidence may not be worth our time, which is unfortunate. You know, I honestly would love to see whether like how good they really are. You know, and I think that they're doing these teams a disservice.
Right, I agree. Eser, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I was very surprised. I was like, oh, they're done. And it was like this whole chunk of time left. I was like, what are they gonna do? I called it myself. I was like, I'm probably gonna be disappointed why there's this much time left. And I was just like waiting and waiting. I was like, why? And that's it. That's my thought.
Yeah. I was going to say this earlier in this session. One thing we tend to not like is how much time they spend on J-Lo and like her accolades and whatever, and like showcasing her for whatever reason. One thing I do like is like the bromance that Derek and Neo got going on.
Yo,
I think it's funny.
Yeah, for sure.
As heck.
That's definitely a saver.
Like they walk into their trailers, which is separated by like a partition, and they're just still talking to each other through the walls. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, man, I want to hug them too. They seem like good guys. You know what I'm saying?
They're on the other side, just like, hey, are you there?
Hey, what are you wearing?
That's what he said. That's literally what he said.
I like Neo's fit. His fit in that in that video was it was fire.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, let's wrap this episode of the session up. Thank you guys for coming on. Obviously, it's always fun doing this with you guys, talking World of Dance, giving our own opinions and critiques and whatnot. That being said, Justin, man, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Wonderfell88. That's where you can find me.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Eser, where can people find you, buddy?
You guys can also find me on Instagram at ValCirca. And if you want to, you can find me on Facebook.
And I think that's it there. I don't want to say anything else. Oops.
That's it.
Sorry. Oh. And as for me, I'm Russ Santos, aka Lock and Robin, having technical difficulties here. You can find me at Lock and Robin. Oops, again. You can find me at Lock and Robin on Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. If you want to talk to me on Reddit, I'm on there too. Thank you guys for listening. If you guys like what you hear, if you guys like what you see, and you want to follow us more, find us at dancefamtv on all the social media avenues, such as Instagram, Twitter, Reddit also, YouTube, obviously, it's where you're watching us, or on our website, dancefam.tv, #the session. Like and subscribe to the YouTube video. It really helps us out. If you want to submit any kind of videos, you can go to our website, dancefam.tv. We will see you guys next time when we get to, the callbacks. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.